Hey everyone, Henry here. Welcome back to another developer commentary video. This time we talk about my second adventure map, Underground Science Associates 2. Again, please note that everything I'll tell you here is just a brief summary of how things went down and that I'm not gonna go into full detail on everything. So, let us begin. Let's jump back to April 2022. As I mentioned in my Monster Hunter developer commentary video, I started building this map because I was a bit burned out by working on the Monster Hunter. I already knew I wanted to make a sequel to part 1 and I figured that it would be best if I just built this map first and work on the other maps later. I again kept it pretty similar to the original games. Daniel Phillips, who's inspired by Cave Johnson, Nicholas, who's inspired by Doug Redman, the Operator inspired by GLaDOS, and so on. You get the idea. Though things like the cores being endangered were original ideas and not inspired. I also added some new mechanics which weren't in my previous map, which I will talk about now. First of all, I added non-portable surfaces. In the original map there were areas where your portals would just cease to exist, and I did that because at the time I had no idea how to make all portals disappear on one block type but not all others. My solution to this was that I just put repeating command blocks behind all netherite blocks that check if there are arrows nearby. If they detect an arrow in the area, they just run the command kill at E type arrow. Really complicating. I could have just used a single command that checks if an arrow is stuck inside a netherite block, but I didn't know that command existed at the time. Oh well. Enough of that. Let's talk about the choices mechanic. So I kinda wanted the player to be able to make dialogue choices when talking to Rusty. It's nothing that really changes the gameplay overall, it's just something I thought was fun for the player because it would make the gameplay a tad bit more unique. Another problem I had to solve with this is that our player lost his head and got his vocal cords removed.
Hello, test subject. Could you tell me your name? He cannot speak. You know what they do to test subjects' vocal cords while they are in hypersleep. Oh right. I apologize.
So I came up with the so-called texting ability, which 001 uses to communicate with Rusty. I think it's a good solution. I was worried that the texting sound would get really annoying, but I think it's okay. Now to the Purple Gel. I'm really invested in the Portal games and know basically everything about them, and that also includes scrapped content for the games. As some of you might know, Valve actually planned a Purple Gel for the second game, which was a sticky gel. They scrapped it because some playtesters felt ill when walking on the walls or upside down on the ceiling, but I loved the idea so much that I wanted to include it in my map. I essentially just give the player the levitation effect when they are near a purple wool block, and I really love the effect. It really feels like you are sticking to the gel. What I also didn't get to do in the first map was to show just how huge the facility really is. I really tried to show the player that Aperture is huge, like enormous. I think I succeeded with that. A little fun fact, when you get to this elevator here, there's a 10% chance of the door being shut. When that happens, you will get this secret voice line.
Sometimes this stupid door just won't open. If you're hearing this, it means that the door, in fact, won't open. Please go through here.
There's another door here at the start of Chapter 4, which only opens when you chose 32 logs of wood at the start of the map. Inside, you will find a voice tape of Daniel telling you that if you're a guy who likes much wood, it's the right job for you.
So, if you're a guy who likes much wood, this is the right job for you.
Just a little Easter egg. Speaking of Easter eggs, there's something in the hallway right after the presentation about the multiverse portal. People look to the left and to the right, see that this door here has a pressure plate and walk through. Though when you go to the left door here, it opens when you get near it and you will find an arcade machine which is fully functional. A fun little secret that probably many people missed. Well, I guess it's called a secret for a reason, huh? Now let's talk about the Ratman, aka Doug, aka Nicholas as I called him. I already mentioned in my last video that I wanted him to physically appear in this map. I already had the idea in mind of 001, Rusty and him teaming up to fight the Operator. For his head, I again typed an emoticon on minecrafthats.com because these are hats with many variations. When we first meet him, I wanted him to look at you, but I didn't want his whole body to face towards you. The way I solved that is that he's actually made out of 2 armor stands. His head is an invisible armor stand with no arms which always faces you, and his body is another armor stand which has no head. The animations for him were actually the first animations I did on Hazelkern.com, and I think they turned out pretty okay. For the cutscenes where you watch through the player's vision, I just summoned an armor stand with the portal gun in its hand, turned the game mode of the player into spectator mode, and used the command called spectate to let the player look through the eyes of the armor stand. That's also how I got the green camera effect when we spy on the operator. It's just a creeper with no eye which the player spectates. Now let's talk about the boss fight. I learned from my mistakes in my previous map and changed 2 things. Number 1, the player gets checkpoints throughout the fight. And number 2, the player gets to use the portal gun. And these changes made the boss fight just so much more fun in my opinion. It's literally a better version of the first boss fight. At the end of the boss fight, I really wanted the situation to be kinda bad even though we defeated the boss. The way I did that was by crushing Rusty, leaving the player to think their best friend died. Of course, I couldn't just let him die. No way. But at the time, the player didn't know that, of course. I also had an alarm ringing in the back, giving the player the feeling that they are under pressure. Another thing I want to talk about is that right before we escape, we actually get to play Nicholas. I tried showing the player that by giving the player extra hearts, changing the voice lines to sound like the voice comes out of our own mouth, and by changing the head of the player. And I thought that should be enough. And that's a wrap on this developer commentary. Now we got all my current maps done. Don't really know what I will upload now that I ran out of maps for developer commentaries. Maybe I'll play some maps from other people and give some feedback or so, who knows. That's all folks. See ya!